Hello everyone and welcome to Our Driven Roads. Today I am in a Ford Expedition and this thing is huge. If the Camaros, Mustangs, and Challengers are the muscle cars of America, then the Expedition is the flex car of America. Because I personally don't see much benefit from having a vehicle like this. Yes, it's spacious, so you can say it's practical, although getting 17 miles per gallon even without having a V8 under the hood, that's pretty bad. You can argue with me as much as you want, but I'll say that a minivan is still much more practical. You can fit a lot more stuff in it. If you're concerned about traction and stuff, there's even all-wheel drive versions. So yeah.
You know what? Forget about this crap. Just buy a Durango SRT instead. You want 3 rows? Have it. Take your kids to school while they scream for their lives. But you can't hear them because the big Hemi V8 is louder. With each morning engine start, your testosterone level goes up, so you can show your colleagues at work who the boss is.
But hey, let's say you want this vehicle regardless of what I just said. You still want this vehicle. And what do you get with it? So this particular one is an Expedition Limited. I'll say you get a lot more stuff than I've seen in some luxury cars I've drove. So apparently if you want a truck SUV and you have the money for it, then probably you're gonna option it out so you're not just looking for the practicality but want something more out of it. And when I say that, I mean that the seat memory function will also memoriate the position of the steering wheel, and I think the pedal box as well, because you have a dedicated pedal box height adjustment function, which is really nice. I mean, even if you're a bigger guy or a smaller person, you're still going to be able to adjust yourself pretty well. So let's move on. I said this is a limited trim, so you have automatic folding mirrors. Your rear seats can fold down by pressing the button in the back when you open the trunk. Speaking about the trunk itself, you can technically open the trunk just by bringing your foot underneath the back of the car. Tried to do that, it didn't work on me. Anyway, you have heated and ventilated front seats and heated back seats. The third row seat is not ventilated or heated, but I guess that's fine. You have this giant storage compartment in the center console, and it's really big. It's so big that you can rent it out to students. It's very large. You have 2 cup holders here. You have 2 cup holders here in front. You also have a wireless charging pad. Again, many of these functions you find in higher trims or much more expensive cars. So I guess this is some of the things that might help you justify buying this truck. It's a truck. You also get a premium audio system. Honestly, it sounds just like a generic audio system, and I think that's due to the giant space you're having here. The overall comfort is really good. The seats are really comfy and soft, but with good side bolstering, and there's of course a ton of space in the back. Still not as good as a minivan, because with a minivan you can fold the rear seats into the floor and you're getting a lot more practicality. Even if you want to go camping, for example, with the seats folded down, I mean, of course you're not going to be able to stand in the minivan, but there's so much space, you're not going to feel cramped here. I guess you can sit on your butt without touching the ceiling with your head. Before I forget, so the infotainment system, it's a sync unit and it just works great. It hooks up pretty fast with Android Auto, which I started to use pretty often recently. Also, this is actually the second car I'm seeing this feature. If you connect your phone through Android Auto, you will have an additional guidance on your gauge cluster screen, which is really cool, because in other cars I drove which had their own navigation system, as soon as you connect through Android Auto, the only navigation information is going to be displayed on a main screen, and that's fine. It works, of course, but it's a really nice touch to have some of that guidance on your gauge cluster, so you're not moving your eyes out of your main line of view. So that's really nice. I said this is the second vehicle because the first one was the Ford Explorer, so it's really nice to have that feature, and I wish that other manufacturers would have the same thing. Now, I know that I started right away with the interior, and I did so because this is where the car stands out more. Exterior wise, it's big. With that said, you can fit in a regular parking spot, which is still nice. You're not going to be able to see where you're parking, where your lines are, because it's a huge vehicle. It would be really nice to have a 360 view type of camera system for parking, which was available in the limited trim for the Explorer, but not here. So yeah, overall it looks big and muscular, honestly. And it's one of those cars you see in movies when FBI is running on the street, and they're driving this bulletproof Ford Expeditions or Chevy Tahoe or Suburban, something like that. If you get hit by something like this, chances are most of the damage is going to be on your side, but not on the side of this car. I really like the fact that you can open the window of the trunk lid separately from the trunk door itself. That's a pretty cool feature. I'm expecting with such a big vehicle you can carry poles or something like that, something that can stick out, and you want others to see how much it sticks out and how much you can fit in it. Let's touch briefly the performance side of the vehicle. And this particular Expedition runs I think it's a 3.5 liter turbocharged V6, which honestly is more than adequate. And by adequate, I mean that I'm assuming back in 2000s or even 2010s, the amount of power you're getting from a 3.5 liter turbocharged V6 was the same amount you would get from a V8 vehicle. So your fuel economy would be even worse back then. So the power is appropriate. You can pass. It may struggle on higher speeds on a highway because after all, it's a turbo engine, and the vehicle itself weights a lot, but I would say it's more than enough. Transmission is pretty smooth as well. Like this 10-speed automatic transmission, and so far, if it's not used in performance vehicles like Mustangs, the transmission works pretty well, so no complaints on that. What is not cool about this vehicle is its handling characteristics. Honestly, it feels like a boat. A soft, cushy, nice type of boat, but there is little resistance in corners. And it's kind of understandable and expected because you can imagine you're sitting pretty much higher than your regular SUVs on the road, like RAV4 or even Ford Explorer. So that tells a lot. And the chassis is not as refined as the one found in the new Chevy Tahoe, which has a Magnorite suspension combined with air suspensions, which is of course has a much more complicated construction, but it gives a vehicle like this some really impressive handling characteristics, because this one is, I mean, it's pretty wobbly. I mean, it's pretty stable on the road, but you do want to make sure you brake significantly before you enter a corner. Otherwise, you will roll over, just like the sticker above my head says. So it's kind of expected in a way. With that said, the Explorer I had handled a lot better, and I would say from practicality standpoint, that Explorer was more than enough. It's also a 3-row seater with a lot of interior space. I'm not arguing. This one has even more space, but you're losing that car feel. It's just too much. The Explorer handled it actually pretty well for its size, and you don't want to go past that limit. You do want to have at least some feeling on the road, because otherwise you're really disconnected. And apparently I'm so upset with the way this thing handles that I cannot really express much about it. But again, there is a market for cars like this as well, so I guess that's fine. And I guess I cannot say much more about this vehicle because trucks like this are definitely not in my range of consideration or understanding. I do not like big cars, so my point of view is basically of a person who never drove a vehicle of this size. I do not really understand the meaning of cars like this, except for, why not? Because the bigger the better. And I normally agree with that when it comes to engine, which is why it's kind of hard for me to appreciate the value of a vehicle like this, unless again you have the money and you can spend that $100,000 on a even higher trim like this one. I think it's there's like a King Ranch trim which comes with even more leather and even more features, so you're basically riding a luxury vehicle. So that's about it for today. Although I had the car for about a week, I didn't have much time to film it, so it's more of a quick drive or review of this car. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. So I'll see you next time. Subscribe. There is a lot more to come, and I'll see you next time.